and organization is at stake. But whole of humanity or human life seems to be in danger. When the lockdown period started, due to unavailability, until now there is unavailability of any vaccine, only 3 types of preventive measures were announced. They were home stay, social distancing, and boosting immunity. Boosting immunity, which is part of improving our physical strength. But as we proceeded further, after one lockdown, further second, third, and now it's fourth, with the increasing anxiety and stress level of people, it was realized that it is not only physical strength that is enough. There are certain things more to be combined together to come out of this crisis successfully. A human body requires, and human wellness also requires that they must be emotionally stable, emotional strength, spiritual strength, mental strength, all need to be strengthened. So now it is being required that being realized that apart from, together with social distancing, all other strengths for human wellness and quality of our human body, talk about physical strength, be it spiritual strength, mental strength, and emotional strength, all are important. And that is, it requires that we should integrate all these strengths together in order to improve quality of our human wellness. So this is what the quality management calls for, that all systems and component of a systems which can play a role in improving quality, that should be integrated and continuously improved. And obviously the total quality management calls for is a strategic approach for delivering best to the customers by integrating product, service, uh, uh, system, processes, improving them, innovating them, along with each and every individual of the organization. Edward Deming has given the principle. He is supposed to be acclaimed as a founding father of total quality management and has played a major role in rebuilding Japan after Second World War. Deming principles are a combination of two schools of thought. One is a scientific school of thought, which was given by F.W. Taylor, and other was human relation school of thought, which was given by Elton Meyer. So what I feel that this topic of the webinar, adoption of Deming 14 principles and application in total quality management, is completely relevant in light of the critical situation which we are facing today. And the survival of fittest theory, which has given by Darwin, has said that only those are going to survive who are completely fit after this crisis. And quality is the paramount parameter which defines the fitness. I convey my best wishes to the faculty coordinator of this webinar, Ms. Neha Chauhan, and will request her to take over, join us, and take this webinar further. Over to you, Neha ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries, my companions, and students present here. I, Neha Chauhan, Assistant Professor of CMD, welcome you all to the first webinar of the series on the topic Adoption of Deming 14 Principles and its application in TQM, that is a Total Quality Management. I am glad that we all could connect through this medium and continue to quench our thirst for knowledge. I would take this special moment to welcome our alumni too, who have made the institution proud in forever time. I welcome to Mr. Ibad Hanif sir. He is from Supply Chain Management Department, Industry, one of the few people in the supply chain management industry who was both imparted knowledge and practiced it as well. He is our alumni from 1995 to 97 batch. He is actively involved with our management, with some management institute as visiting faculty. Presently, he is working as a visiting faculty in IIM Indore for supply chain management. He worked as visiting faculty in other institute as well, like MDI Gurgaon, UPS Dehradun, NDI Delhi, and he presented a research paper as well to the German delegates titled India Today and Tomorrow Logistically. He has published a book named of Jugaad of India Logistics. So we welcome you, sir. We are very happy to have you with us.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
And now moving forward, as Stephen Hawking puts it, intelligence is the ability to change. So in this change time, let us brush our intelligence more through learning. Now moving forward with our learning, I would like to introduce my students, Nikita Batra, Avnish Yadav, Vishal Agarwal, and Arindam Bera, who are the second year PG team second year students. The topic of our webinar is about the Deming. But firstly, I would like to tell you something about the total quality management. Total quality management is some of the three words, that is a total quality and management. Total is the made up of the whole. And when we talk about the quality, a single word comes in our mind, that is the excellence, the degree of excellence a product or a service provides. When we talk about the management management is an act, art, or manner of handling, controlling, and directing. In a simple language, we can say that the TQM is an art of managing the whole to achieve the excellence. We know that the quality needs to be built into every level of a company and become part of everything the organization does, from answering the phone and to assembling the product and service to the end customer. Quality is a key to the organization's success. TQM describes a management approach to the long-term success through customer satisfaction. Now that's it from my side for TQM. Now let me tell you how we will proceed further. Firstly, Nikita will explain about the Deming and first two principles of Deming, followed by Avnish, Vishal, and Arindam. So I request to Nikita. Nikita, please start.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Me, Nikita, and I myself, Nikita, and I am going to say about who was Deming and his first two principles. So, Deming's full name was Edward William Deming. He was an American statistician, professor, and quality consultant. He was known for his principles and books in the field of quality management. He proposed various concepts like PDCA, sampling techniques, and was also well known for his contribution to Japan's quality journey. Deming suggested in his book Out of the Crisis the 14 key principles for management to follow with the objective of improving the effectiveness of business organizations. Now, let us see the first two principles of Deming. The first principle is create a constant purpose towards improvement. In this principle, he said that plan for quality in long run, resist reacting with short-term solutions, don't just do the same things better, find better things to do. Predict and prepare for future challenges and always have the goal of getting better. In simple words, I can say, you can also say create constancy of purpose should be on a continual basis, and it focuses on the improvement of quality of products and services, and also allocating resources in such a way that it will benefit for a longer period of time, not just focuses on short-term needs or fulfilling the or achieving the short-term profitability. This is done so that a company or a business should sustain or should be competitive in market, and also to create job opportunities for others. Let us see an example for this. First, so if for example, there is a company, and this company having two kinds of a problem. First is problem of today, and second is the futuristic problem, or problem of tomorrow. So there are two options to solve for the company. First is to just concentrate on problem of today and ignore the problem of tomorrow or futuristic problem. But the second option for a company is to concentrate or focus on both the problems, whether it is problem of today or a problem of tomorrow. It doesn't matter. If a company chooses for first option, that is to just solve problem of today, then it will only benefit them for a short term period of time, and that will result in the short term sustainability of the business in the market. But if the organization or if the company chooses the second option, which is to solve both the problems and to concentrate or focus on both the problems, that is problem of today and a futuristic problem, then it will not only give the short term benefit, but along with that it will also fulfill our long term needs. This can be done, solving the long term problem can be done by can be estimated. How long term problem can be estimated? So for estimating the long term problem, we can use different techniques like forecasting and research, and various technologies are there. So we can use them and predict what will be the long term problems or long futuristic problems will be there. So by solving both the problems or by planning for both the problems, we can not only fulfill the short term needs, but also the long term needs as well. Now let's come to the second principle. Second principle is the adopt the new philosophy. Embrace quality throughout the organization. Put your customers' need first rather than react to competitive pressure, and design products and services to meet those needs. Be prepared for a major change in way business is done. It's about leading, not simply managing. Create your quality vision and implement it. Now, in second principle, what Deming is going to say is wants to say to us is, now we are in a new economic era. We can't simply live with the mistakes and delays, and also with the unskilled workmanship. So to avoid this, people should get training, and also with that, they need to understand what their main job is, how they're going to work for the company. And for this, management should also focus on leadership also as well, because before time, management only focuses on only works on traditional management. That goes like that, you can say that goes like only focuses on the outcome, how we are going, that is to our targeted customers, how we are going to attract them, and only focuses on that. But nowadays, it's not only focusing on the target customers, it also focuses on the employees working for us. It also involves the leadership skills, how we can improve them, how we can assist them to do better work, and how we can sustain them in our organizations. So for further 4 principles, I would like to invite Avnish for the further 2 principles. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikta. Good afternoon to everyone present here. I am Avnish Kumar. Now I am continuing with the remaining principles of the Deming's. Before starting the Deming's remaining principles, I want to give some information regarding William Edward Deming's. Dr. William Edward Deming's is an unknown statistician in the US. In 1950, Japan was trying to recover from the devastation of World War II. According to this, no one in the US paid much attention to the Deming's theories, and Japanese industrialists decided to hire Deming as their consultant. After hiring the Japanese industrialist, Deming's principle, they changing a lot of the they stop depending on inspections. That means inspections have 4 points. First one is inspections are costly and unreliable, and they do not improve quality. They merely find a lack of quality. And second one is build quality into the process from start to finish. And third one is do not just find what you did wrong, eliminate the wrong altogether. And fourth one is use statistical control method, not physical inspections alone, to prove that the process is working. Basically, inspections are costly and unreliable because they provide effectiveness in any organization and in any type of production houses after the after taking a much more time. So this is not beneficial for any type of industry. And the second point is says that build quality into the process from start to finish. According to the third principle, Deming says that build and maintain the quality from starting to the last point, not changing in between the production time and many other activities in the organization. And do not just find what you did wrong, eliminate the wrong altogether. Sometimes the suppliers given and providing the wrong material and improper quality material at that time. We eliminate the wrong things in the organization according to this principle. And the fourth point is use statistical control method, because without any statistics we are not finding any type of profit and losses, and we have a lot of data of the organization. So it is necessary for maintaining the statistical record of the company. And it is too late to react to the quality of a product when the product leaves the door. And quality comes not from inspection but from improving the product. So the inspections are not much more mandatory for any organization, according to the third principles of the Deming. And suppose any type of organization follow the inspections of by the help of expertise. Expert give inspection to improve and implement in the organizations for completing the productivity with the effectiveness. But there is no changes, and they are not providing a better result without with the third principle of the Demings. Now I'm coming to the fourth principles of the Deming. Fourth principle is that use a single supplier for any one item. Uh, Use a single supplier for any one item. There have 3 points. First one is quality relies on consistency. The less variation you have in the input, the less variation you will have the output. And second point is that look at suppliers as your patterns in quality, encourage them to spend time improving their own quality. They should not compete for your business is based on price alone. And third one is analyze the not just quality to ensure that suppliers meet your quality standards. According to the Deming's fourth principles, every organizations have requirement of only one supplier, because a much more supplier are present in the organization. At that time the productivity is not matching with the according to the need of the market and according to the expertise of the company. at that time only one supplier, because the only one supplier is working with the instructions of providing by the company, and this is not giving the self inspections in the company. He works by the order of the company. So only the one supplier is much more effective to any one organization by the according to the Deming's fourth principles. And this is in this fourth principle. Fourth point is that analyze the total cost to you, not just the initial cost of the product. Every business, we analyze the findings and the how much we are investing, what we are getting after investing the money, and many more things we are analyzing. So analyzing is the process by which we finding the lacking points of the company and the things. And according to the Deming's fourth principle, he was given the one formula. This is the quality is equal to results of work efforts upon total cost. Result of work efforts, total number of working efforts upon total cost. How much we are investing on the total number of work effort. After that, we finding the quality. And look at the supplier as your partner in the quality, because we work with the supplier as a partner, not any type of external client and external member of the company, because we provide the feelings of the internal as a partner. After that, he giving the good quality raw material for we are without any wastage, and we have no wastage. After that, we are providing the good quality product in the market, and increase the productivity of the organizations. Now I'm coming, look at the supplier as your partner in the quality. Encourage them to spend time improving their own quality, and they should not compete for your business based on the price alone. Now I'm coming to the fourth principles of the Deming. Fifth principles of the Deming. The fifth principle is improve constantly and forever. This principle is applicable in all over the world, in every time of the daily life, because we are improving a daily to daily anything. After that, we get a proper result in the better things of the productivity. And now it have a 3 points. First one is continuously improve your systems and process. Deming promoted the plan, do, check, act approach to process analysis and improvement. This is the process in which we have an improvement cycle, plan, do, check, act, and this is given by the Demings. And this cycle is proposed to lots of changes in any organizations, because we have a plan. After that, we are implementing in somewhere. After that, our responsibility is to doing something according to our plan, and we are implementing in the organization. After that, we are checking it is relevant, it is working or not. After that, it is acting, and how much we are paying in the organization, and in this plan, this plan is giving us result or not. And third, second point is that emphasize training and education, so everyone can do their jobs better. And this is the basic things and requirement of any organization, because updation is the basic thing in the organization, because without any updation, we are lacking some points of the improvement in the organization. We want in effectiveness and efficiency in the organization. At that time, we have the requirement for updation in the organization. Updation is not in the technology, in the system. Updation and training and education provide to all the systems and the department in the organization, employees, upgradation, the technology, upgradation, the machineries, etc. After that, we find the proper productivity in our organization. According to this fifth principle, education is the mandatory or to all the employees, because sometimes we are lacking with the efforts, because we hire the uneducated and less educated people. So it is the basic requirement of the company. And third point is that use Kaizen as a model to reduce waste and to improve productivity, effectiveness, and safety. Uh, uh, as we all know that we have a sorry we have a less wastage. After that, automatically and ultimately we are improving our quality and effectiveness with this safely of the organization. Now I'm coming to the sixth principles of the organizations. Sixth principle of the Demings. Sixth principle is use training on the job. Use training on the job. That means allocate resources to train employees to perform their jobs is the best manner possible. Training help to make better use of employee. Train the people to adopt change in the organization. Train the employees to use statistical method for continuous process improvement. Train the employees to use the best utilization of resources. Train the employees to reduce waste in the process. Now I am taking an example of training and development department of any of the employees and organization. It's necessary because without any training and development, the employee is not taking the updation of the training. He is not surviving a long time. So the training and development is the basic and necessary thing for any type of employee in any type of organization, because he wants to survival of an organization. By integrating it into the organization, it will be considered as normal for the employees as part of their personal development plan. Sorry. And according to the sixth principle, it have a 4 point. First one is train for consistency to help reduce variation. That means we are training our employee and we are train all things of the organization with maintain the consistency in the organization. Without any consistency, the training is not implemented properly, and it gives not from the properly effectiveness of the organization. And second point is that build a foundation of common knowledge. Maintain a common scale point in the organization, because it is most important. Without any scaling, anyone cannot applicable in the organization. Suppose I want to join any type of organization. At that time, I want to the company gives the scaling point for when I'm not touching that. At that time, the company fired me, and I'm touching that. After at that time, company selecting me. Allow workers to understand their roles in the big picture. Encourage staff to learn from one another and provide a culture and environment for effective teamwork. Now further continued by Vishal Agrawal.
Thank you, Nikita and Avnish, for your useful information on the key principles proposed by Deming for the overall quality management of any company. In continuation with the principles, I would like to start with Principle 7, which suggests the idea of implementing leadership at all levels of management. It says a quality management is one where every employee feels that they are a part of decision making. This motivates them to work according to their maximum potential because their emotional investment is involved with the work. Also, if every employee is empowered with a sense of leadership, It brings creativity in their work, which increases the efficiency and thus improves the productivity. So this is what Deming had proposed to the top management with the help of subpoints, where he says the supervisors and the managers are expected to understand their workers and the processes they use. They should not simply supervise, but they should provide support and resources so that each employee can reach to their potential. They should act as a coach rather than acting as a policeman. They should also emphasize the importance of participative management and transformational leadership. The best example we can draw from the chairman of Mahindra Group, Mr. Anand Mahindra, where he is constantly looking for innovative ideas at the grassroots levels, and he publicly announces those innovations via his own Twitter account. The next principle that Deming had proposed is to eliminate fear from the employees within an organization. This is in correlation with the previous point. If the top management implement the laissez-faire style of leadership, where every employee has a say in the organization, it will automatically eliminate fear because they can put their opinion and views in front of their superiors. This is what Deming had proposed in the sub-point where he says that allow people to transform at their best by ensuring that they are not afraid to express their ideas or concerns. It is important to understand that the best solution for a problem comes from the bottom level of management because they are the one who is facing the ground reality. The top management is one who has to take decisions with the top management is one who has to take decisions, whereas the proper understanding of the problem and the solutions come from the bottom level of management. It is the responsibility of the top management that every employee should feel valued in an organization. This could be done with the help of open and honest communication to remove fear. Hence, the role of corporate communication plays a very important role, and we, as an MBA student, understand how it helps in solving people's problem, and thus we are asked to give the utmost importance to corporate communication. The principle 9, which Deming had proposed, is to break down the barriers between the departments. We understand that an organization has several departments. They cannot function in isolation, but they have to work in coordination. Even though every department has their own target, but they are synchronized with the common goal of the organization. Each department is responsible for the fulfillment of their respective target, but they all share common mission and vision, and their foremost objective is to fulfill the organization's goal. Thus, every department has to have cross-functional teamwork to build understanding between themselves, and they should work in collaboration and consensus instead of compromise. The departments should work based on the internal customer concept. They should recognize that each department serves other departments that use their output. For instance, people in departments like research, design, sales, and production must work as a team because at the end, they are catering to the needs of the ultimate consumer. The last principle of my part, which is the principle 10 proposed by Deming, states that the organization must get rid of unclear slogans. We know that slogans act as a motivational technique for the employee in the organization. It helps in reminding what company expects from them. The slogan should be clear, precise, and memorable. It should be embedded in the subconscious mind of the employee. However, such slogans should be avoided which acts as an exhortation, means urging someone to do something, or which makes the reader confused. For example, in the subpoint 1, the slogan marked in green color, it says excellence in service. However, this slogan is short and memorable, but we cannot infer what does it mean, and it does not give us the idea how will it be achieved. Instead of this, if an organization comes up with the slogan which says you can do better if you try, it is much more effective because it is short, clear, memorable, and motivating. Now, with this, I end this. These are some of the few takeaways from my part for the 4 important principles of Deming. Now, I would like to invite my batchmate, Mr. Arindam Bera, to cover the remaining 4 principles of Deming.
Thank you, Bishal, for giving me this opportunity. Once again, a very good afternoon to respected dignitaries, to respected faculty members of our institute, all my dear batchmates, all the beloved juniors who are currently present in this webinar. So, as you know, today we are discussing about 14 principles of Deming, and in which maximum has covered by my friends Vishal, Nikita, and Avnish. So, rest 4 will be taken care of by mine. So, I'm gonna start with the 11th one. So let's have a look on the screen and let's see what Deming proposed in his 11th principle. So in 11th principle, he said to eliminate management by objectives. And as we're seeing that there are 3 sub-points, the key words proposed by Deming. First, look at how the process is carried out, not just numerical targets. Deming said that production targets encourage high output and low quality. Number 2, provide support and resources so that production levels and quality are high and achievable. And number 3, measure the process rather than the people behind the process. Well, here Deming proposed about some numbers. Well, numbers can serve as a motivating factor, particularly in the sales environment, which is known as target. And we people who are in corporate, basically, we know what is target. But targets can never be right except very occasionally by accident. See, if a target is lower, then it is quite easy to achieve that. And the automatic reaction for workers to take a rest when it has achieved. Another side, the thing could be different. If target is unreasonable, then either it will not be attained, or if it attained, then through cutting some corners like lowering standards, like ignoring the safety requirements. To more simplifying it, I can take an example. Suppose I'm a student and my teacher assigned 3 assignments to me and I have to submit it to the next day. So by considering the content of the assignment, what I find that I can complete 2 assignments very well in between this time limit, but I have to complete 3. So either I have to drop some point of content, so the quality of the assignment would be poor. Otherwise, I have to use some unethical way like card copy system based. So this which is as similar as for the workers. So now the question raises that should be there any number for the workers or not? Yeah, it's true that you need to have some numerical targets, but what is a bad thing for too many companies? Setting a quota becomes a replacement for good leadership. And in Deming's opinion, high production always suffers quality. Because when you set a numerical target, if it is high, then you are encouraging people to take shortcuts, and definitely that will suffer in quality. For example, a production line worker. Okay, so you get paid per piece. You will finish as many as possible, and you will try to work as fast as you can. But now the question is that, are you working as well as you can? To complete with 3 assignments, I don't have any issue, but still I know the time limit is very short. So I am not doing it very pre-mind. So this is what the problem. So again, Deming asks to focus on the process. A well-designed process always deliver the result what we want. If it doesn't, then of course the process needs an attention. Again, he reminds us that good leadership will always encourage people to feel proud of their work. But they already want to perform. We all know that it's up to the management to create an environment in which they can perform. And again, some thinkers point out that numbers are very common in sales, but management by objective should be approached with caution, because you have to remember only one thing: what you measure is what you get only. So finally, if you want to set a numerical target, there is no issue. Be sure that you have to know that your business can reach it, because without a plan, without a numbers, the numbers are just meaningless. So this is what we understand by Deming's 11th principle, what he actually proposed. Now going to the next one. In his 12th principle, what he said, remove barriers to pride of workmanship. again, here are 2 points. First one is allow everyone to take pride in their work without being rated or compared. Number 2, treat workers the same and don't make them compete with other workers for monetary or other rewards. Over time, the quality system will naturally raise this level of everyone's work to an equally high. So Deming believed that taking pride in one's work is essential to quality and process improvement. And we have probably experienced with ourselves also. If we like to do something, then we expect that the outcome will be very good. But if we constantly criticizing by others people, if people comparing us to others, then in that situation it might be work as a demotivating factor. So what is stop? So we'll stop enjoying what we previously loved. These things is happening with the workers also. It's very natural that some workers will acquire skills faster than others. It's very natural that for them the outcome will be very good. But while it's great to recognize achievements, the rest of the team should not feel judged, or they should not feel that they're less valued. This is a bad thing. So Deming says that the quality system will ultimately get everyone working according to the same standard. Like there are some process problems which also cause workplace frustration. So if you expected to deliver X output, for that you need Y input and Z tools, and that only that will be the time when the X output will be delivered. If you don't have that, then how could you deliver X output? For example, I am a student, and for me X output is my result, and Y input is the guidance, how my teacher guide me, and Z tools are the books, like the infrastructure which I have. So if I don't have Y and Z, or teacher's guidance and books and internet connection, then how could I think that my result will be very good? So this is what Deming basically said here. So let's take this analogy further also. You have been struggling with your job for the last year because the process you are working in is flawed, and the performance what you've done, that is barely acceptable. So meanwhile, a colleague who is constantly make mistakes gets praised because the numbers look good. So how could you pride for your work? You know that whatever you are doing, that is not good. But to asking to your senior authority, you find that is very pointless. How can a manager be proud if what he does, if the effect is to reduce quality and make his workers even less happy in their improve morale and productivity by instigating improvements to process and methods in order to raise quality? So Deming makes a tough call on the managers that as a leader, one's job is to help other people to do their jobs by creating systems that work. If someone falls outside in the system, then you have to correct that. But if you are working inside the system, then you need to work with them, figure out where the system fails actually. This is how he said to control these things. So this is the overall things which is said in his 12th principle. Next we'll go to the next one, which is known as 13th principle. Please change the slide. Okay, thank you. The 13th slide says that implement education and self-improvement. Here also three major key points are there. Improve the current skills of, encourage people to learn new skills to prepare the future changes and challenges. Number 3, build skills to make your workforce more adaptable to change and better able to find the achieve improvements. See, things are changing very fast in the modern world. So there is of course little point in change for change sake, but without being aware of change, how can we decide? Simply, if you don't have knowledge for a particular thing, then how do you occur a change? That is not possible. So what Deming said, Deming talks about on the job training first. He also advocates with the personal growth to continued education. When people are learning things that are relevant to their jobs and business, their skills will improve and they are better able to face the challenges for the business, either it's in present or in future also. So just a exercise makes the body more agile. Education helps us to improve our thinking process. It's up to what kind of education programs you are willing to sponsor in full. If your employee want to improve themselves in other areas also, so you need to support them, because business isn't always going to stay same. and the new skills of employees gain could prove helpful in the longer term. So the better quality of the skills sets for your business has disposal, says Deming, the better the overall product and the service quality you can deliver. So this is what we get to know from the 13 principles of Deming. So we have left only one, which is the 14th principle. And in his 14th principle, Deming said that make transformation everybody's job. Here, improve your overall organization by having each person take a step toward quality. Second, analyze each small step to understand how it fits into the larger picture. Use effective change management principles to introduce the new philosophy and ideas in Deming's 14 points. So basically, Dr. Deming points out that if you want to improve quality or productivity, you need to look to your system rather than your people. We have earlier discussed it. But when it comes to finding solution, he advocates that getting as much input as possible from the people who carry out the process, because they will have much more familiar with the process. So he suggests using business process notation such as flowchart to capture process as their. Next, we can ask people to help us think about how can the change process to improve the quality of their outputs. And since each step in a process impacts on subsequent ones, preparing for transformation becomes everybody's job. So what he proposed to creating a structure in the top management that will push every day on the preceding 13 points and take action in order to accomplish the transformation, because he said a great line that support is not enough, action is required. So this is what he delivered through his 14 principles. So with this, we are completing 14 principle. Now, after this discussion, we could reach to the conclusion of it. Well, Deming had a very clear idea for the successful business organization when he said that innovation comes from people who take by their work. The management should always keep in mind that customers don't measure on how hard you tried, because they always judge that thing, that which product or which service you are delivering to them. So the principles explained above, which are the 14 principles, that totally focus on the one fact, that is quality is never an accident. It comes from a constant and joint effort of all the concerned from bottom to top and also vertical to horizontal. So this is what Deming says, and this is all about the Deming's 14 principle. With this, I'm completing my part, and next the webinar will further continued by Avnish Yadav. We have a small case study for that. Avnish, please take over.
Thank you, Arindam. Now I'm coming to the case study of the Toyota Motors, which is interlinked with the total quality management. Toyota Motors, the king of TQM, total quality management. Before starting the case study, I want to ask. These are the basically these are the very useful information which is beneficial for every type of company. To understand this principle more precisely, we will take up case study from Toyota Motors, which is actually known as the king of the TQM. Before proceeding further, let's look at the some its performance. Toyota Motors, now I'm coming to the case study. Toyota Motors is renowned for its lean manufacturing, which is minimizing waste within manufacturing system while maximizing productivity. Toyota Motors is the 10th most important company in the world, and this position I got according to the Fortune Global 500, and one of the only companies on the list of the directly addressed on the total quality management. And the Toyota Motors Company Limited has received various prestigious awards for quality management, including the Deming's Application Prize in 1965 and the Japan Quality Control Award in 1970. Before the Japanese industrialists not following and not implementing the Deming's principle, that made in Japan was one means that low quality, and after implementing the 14 principles of the Deming's, the Japan quality is the highest quality in all over the world, according to the Fortune Global list. Uh, Recently, Toyota Motors Kaesu, Japan received a Deming Prize in 2016, the first Deming Prize for Toyota this century. The importance of Deming's principle uh, is in the management of Toyota can be understood by the statement given by the Shigeru Toyoda, honorary chairman and director of Toyota in 1980. And this is shown in the diagram of the slide, where he faces that there is not a day I do not think about what Dr. Demings mean to its Deming is the core of our management. When we go to the website of Toyota, we find the corporate policy, which is based on the total quality management approach. The Demings approach centers on creating, change the slide please. Now I'm discussing the corporate policy of the total quality management approach. The Demings approach centers on creating an environment in which the 14 principles we covered and we implemented toward the achievement of the quality. And the corporate policy have four factors and 4 points. The first point is that harness resources. In harness resources in, uh, in and outside the company to grow and become a global Toyota. Uh, Second point is practice good thinking, good practice at all times to raise the reputation of Toyota as a maker of quality products. Uh, these four words and these four words is the main effectiveness of Toyota for achieving the big market share in all over the world, because it gives the good quality product and good services to the customer in market. After implementing the principles of Demings, it changes the industries of the automobile sector. And now I'm coming to the third point: establish mass production system, achieve low prices, and contribute to the growth of the Japanese economy. And this is the basic and requirement thing of the Demings approach and TQM approach, because Toyota Motors given the big market share, big contribution to the Japanese economy. And the Toyota working in which country? Toyota gives a contribute to in the country, a big contribution in the country. And the fourth point is that be aware of the public nature of the automotive industry and contributes to the welfare of the society. Ultimately, the Toyota Motors working on the society welfare, and this is the most valuable thing which is providing by the Toyota Motors, and it spreads the awareness, and according to this welfare of the society, it makes a good position in the society. And through this we understand that Toyota focuses more on the qualitative aspect, because it believes that the success does not only lie in improving the productivity but also in improving the quality of the management. Now the further case study will be explained by Vishal.
Thank you, Avnish, for providing the useful insight about Toyota's view regarding Deming principles. Now, I would like to draw the attention of my audience as to how Toyota has related these 14 principles in their management. In this slide, the principles highlighted in black bullet points are the Deming principles, whereas the points which are highlighted in gray color, they are the implementation of Toyota in their management principles. As we all know, Toyota manufactures cars. So their main focus should be on manufacturing quality cars. But instead of this, they focuses upon the overall quality management of their organization, because Toyota believe that not only the quality product matters, but a company with quality management brings great success to the organization, because this cater to the needs of all the stakeholders that are associated with the organization. If we carefully read this slide, we will find that only the point 3 and point 6, which says use full systems to avoid overproduction, and the standardized tasks and processes are the foundation for continuous improvement and employee empowerment, are associated with the quality control in production process, whereas the rest of the remaining points are associated with the quality control of Toyota in each department at all levels of management. Thus, it gives us the idea how small changes also lead to big differences. The big differences brings competitive advantages to the company, and such differences outperforms their competitors. This can be understood by the results that had been shown by Toyota during 1965 after they had implemented these principles in their management. I request you to kindly change the slide, please. Hello? Yes, thank you. So, as we see that the first result that Toyota has shown that they had been able, now carefully watch this, the point that are highlighted in red color, they are the results, whereas the point which had been highlighted in yellow color, they are the reasons due to which Toyota had been able to achieve significant results. So the first result that Toyota had achieved, that they had been able to improve their product quality. This has been done because Toyota had understood the importance of building quality into each process. The second effect that Toyota had been, the second result that Toyota had been able to achieve is that the share of the Japanese car market had increased, their total export had increased, the goal of monthly production of 50,000 vehicles and the monthly export of 10,000 vehicles had been achieved by Toyota. These figures are related to 1965, which were a huge numbers at that time. The third effect that Toyota had been able to achieve is to reduce the cost reduction targets. They had been able to achieve this by knowing the awareness of cost factors as well as quality issues, because they had focused on total quality control based on the twin goals of quality and cost, which was extremely effective in achieving these results. Now, the last result that Toyota had been able to achieve was in the qualitative aspect. They had been able to make their managers learn about management methods. Also, the human relation across the company had also been improved. As a result, the processes were standardized because they had been able to establish a set management system. This was due to the fact that they had focuses upon the quality assurance rules and also cost control rules. With this, I, along with my batchmate and mentor, end our presentation on today's topic, which is adoption of Deming principles in total quality and its application in total quality management. Now, I would like to invite my mentor, Neha Chauhan, to conclude today's evening.
Thank you, Vishal. And thank you all the students. You explained really well. Now I request to Hanif sir. Sir, it would be an honor for me and for all of us if you would share your expertise on the topic.
चिराग तले अंधेरा, तो वो चिराग तले अंधेरा ही था. He was not there on top of the line as far as US is concerned. But what Japanese were able to extract out of him was fantastic. In fact, those 14 principles which he gave was in the 40s, when he was around 42, 43-year-old. I think those were his most productive years. But the realization for it, the real recognition for it actually happened when Japan showcased its effectiveness all across. And what basically resulted in, when Japan started implementing those principles, in fact, Japan didn't even implement them. They surpassed what he had basically talked about. Now, I would just take a cue and I would just try and explain two small little points here, just to give you a better understanding. So when we say statistical control methods to be used, if I use Deming's style very clearly, and Frank Rostington, one of his biggest disciples, who still advocates Deming's principles in the US. So his style was, I have good news and I have bad news. What would you like to hear first? So what would you like to hear first?
Good one. Good.
So the Deming's principle says, always hear the bad news first. Okay, so the bad news here is that, which you guys already said, sampling costs you a lot of money, right? So this is the bad news. So what is the good news then? So the good news is that sampling certainly reduces time, energy, and effort towards a certain lean measure, right? So this is the style with which Deming started working. And let's just come to the context very clearly. So the Japanese today have something which they call as ABT. So any idea what is ABT? So this is activity-based time. So you go to a Japanese company, you go to a Japanese. So if you guys want, you can actually make a note of it. If you are getting interviewed by any Japanese company tomorrow, or you are talking to Japanese guys, you could talk about ABT, that, I'm a specialist in doing activity-based timings. So for example, you're supposed to do a particular activity, say maybe some machining needs to be done, some activity which is very clearly demarked. So start of activity, end of activity, this is a stipulated time. And this is the way we want to actually homogenize the way it actually works out, right? So ABT is a mantra which is followed by all Japanese companies today. And be it Japan or be it India or be it Kenya, if you have a Japanese company, you start speaking ABT with them, they would talk about it. So very interesting. And that's what I'm saying, Japanese surpassed the Deming's principles. The second important point which I would love to talk about is the PDCA cycle. I think I love it. If you ask me, one single point to choose from the Deming's 14 principle, the PDCA cycle, yes, that is something which is phenomenal. The Plan, Do, Check, Act. And most of us may be using PDCA cycle knowingly or unknowingly. We don't even understand, we don't even relate to it. We may be doing it in our subconscious minds, and we don't even realize it that we are doing it. It's extremely important that we keep on checking, correcting ourselves, taking it forward. That's the whole mantra of life. And the most important point, get rid of slogans. Extremely important. They should not be, sloganeering leads you nowhere. And I would just like to cite two examples here. History is a great learner. I simply believe in this principle. And from 2020, if you look at these 80 years, I would just like you to brush through these 80 years for a minute. I'll just take you through these 80 years, and you would be surprised. These 80 years have actually given a fair test of time of these 14 principles. So imagine when in 40s, what happened is the Americans thought that they have really conquered the world. Capitalism was up, industrialism was up, the industrial revolution was in its full swing. Detroit was there as the biggest industrial hub which was ever formed in the entire globe. Automotive industry was there. Ford, General Motors were ruling the roost, and these guys were actually on top of the world, right? The Second World War happened, post which Germany was put to its own place. Japan was bombarded. All that happened. Japan, on one side, post the Second World War, was very, very clear that fighting is not going to take you anywhere. Right? And this is something which they embedded on, they worked on, and they have actually moved forward from there. US by far was becoming the strongest nation, and Russia was catching up with them in every way that was possible. In the 50s, 60s, till the 70s, Japan had moved one notch up than US in bringing quality. And US had started moving towards decentralizing the factories because they thought the factories was a sheer waste of money, right? And they wanted everything to be moved to third world countries, and outsourcing had started. So first it started with Mexico, Brazil, and then India, China, etc., started followed, and it's still happening as of today, right? So ultimately, if you look at it, what has happened from the 70s till 2020, in the last 50 years, what we have seen, US from a powerhouse in the 70s to a industrial giant which controlled technology, which controlled the entire financial capitals, has moved a notch down, where Japan has actually moved a notch up, right? Japan has kept its focus only on one thing, which is total quality management. They have never dwindled for even a single second from the total quality management. Their products stand for quality, right? Today, you look at the Ford cars or the General Motors motor cars, people don't want to buy them. Everyone wants to buy a Japanese car, right? So this is the change which they have been able to bring along. And I would just like to add on, if you actually go into Japan, if you actually, and I would request anyone and everyone who can go down to Japan once. You walk into Japan, and you would see it's not a country. The people actually follow a system. You'd be zapped the way they work towards, in making sure that the country moves in the right direction. And today, you go to any country, Japan supports only its own companies, countries' companies. So, for example, Toyota would take only material from Musashi. So every spare part comes from Musashi. All these techniques were later on adopted by Ford and General Motors, right? Ford started taking from Visteon and Climate Systems. So all this changed because, Japan initiated all these concepts. So, the good point, Deming, being an American, he could have, or he should have given that goodness, into US. He wanted to, but didn't really happen. The Japanese garnered much more than the Americans could, and the result is for everyone to see. In 80 years, Japan as a country has grown from pillar to post and strength to strength. And look at US today. Rattled by the COVID infection. Yeah, there you go. and you have got a maverick president who doesn't know what he's doing. So there you go. So that's what life is. In 80 years, the power game has really shifted. So if you actually stick to one slogan, that is where I'm coming back to. So Japan has stuck to one slogan, and the leadership, irrespective of whosoever has been the leader, they have believed in a total quality principle all throughout. And look where they have gone, and look, where US is with different kinds of sloganeering every year, right? And believe me, Japan as a country, for example, we Indians, we India as a country, we are blessed. God has been extremely kind on us. We are blessed with natural resources. We are blessed with fruits. We are blessed with so many minerals. We are blessed with so many trade routes, right? We are blessed in every which way. Look at Japan. You enter into Japan, on a single day, there would not be less than 30 to 40 earthquakes you would feel in Tokyo, in Kyoto, and they live with this day in and day out, right? There could be tsunami because of the earthquakes, and this is an island country. Imagine they live with all this, and even then they have grown to a superpower because they have kept their principle uniform, unidirectional, universal. And I have a question here, very interesting, maybe maybe of interest to all of you. What is the strength of the Japanese army? Any idea? A question to everyone, anyone who wants to answer. Strength of the Japanese army.
Every Japanese is given military training, and they have to participate if war arises. I feel that majority of the Japanese, though their strength might be very low, but military training is given to every Japanese if in case of crisis.
Okay.
This.
Any other suggestions? You can take a wild guess: 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000, 100,000, 500,000.
One thing more, Japan being an insular, it's an island sort of.
Sure.
So since they don't share borders with other countries, they don't require to maintain a large army.
Correct. That is one. But there have always been a Cold War between Japan and China. It has always continued. Still continues. There's no doubt about that. So so you'd be surprised. Japan has no army. They spend zero amount of rupees on the army. The only army they have is the US Army, a battalion of 34,000 US troops, safeguards Japan. So this is the power of money, what money can buy. So what you are saying, sir, it is true till 1964. In 1964, they disbanded the army. They spend everything into manufacturing and total quality management. And I just like to quote two more examples here, sir. Very, very simple examples. So I had a friend, his name was Tokigawa. Tokigawa-san was heading Honda Motors in India, and we used to manage the Honda Motors warehouses in India. So he was retiring, and he was going back to Japan. So I asked Tokigawa-san, I said, because we were giving him a farewell party. So I asked him, Sir Tokigawa-san, what are you going to do? Since he was unmarried and he had no kids, no family, nothing. So I said, why do you want to go back to Japan? You could easily stay back in India, and you could actually, do whatever you wish. And you could do freelance, you could do so much consulting work. And since you are a name to look up to, Honda Motors, whatever Honda Motors is today in India is because of you. So he said, no, I want to go back to Japan simply because I'm here because of Japan. And what I am going to go do there? You need to come to Japan and you need to see what we do in Japan. So the way he explained it to me is that he'll go back to his village in the morning, since the husbands and the wives both workforce is required and they are always short on people. So the kids are sent from the house to the school, and these are the elders in the village who take care that these kids actually reach to the bus stop without any issues, and they go back to their houses in the right manner. Now, this kind of cohesiveness, the country spirit can only be seen in one country, which is Japan. I have really not seen any other country all across the globe where this kind of cohesiveness is seen, and this is the way Japan functions. And this is Japan for you, and this is what has happened from 1960 to 2010, 15, 20, as you may call it. In 50, 60 years, Japan as a country has changed so much, right? One of those few countries which is a living example of how cohesiveness is built, right? And another example I would like to quote may not be relevant with total quality management here, but on a lighter note, I just like to share why Japanese are so very competitive in nature. So as you may be aware that Japanese are extremely fond of fish. I think all of us would be aware, and they love their seafood. So the Japanese restaurants, every Japanese restaurant serves a lot of seafood. So generally what happens is that there was a lot of complaint which was coming around that this is all dead and it's all frozen, so there is no taste. So Japanese restaurants came up with the idea that they came up with the aquariums, and there was fresh sea food which was available, and you could choose and they would cook it for you. Gradually this worked for 3-4 years. Later on there was again complaint that these seafood, they know that they are supposed to die, so they don't move, so there is no taste. So what they have done now, if you go to a Japanese restaurant, a small tiny little shark which is moving around the seafood, so it's moving all the fish all across, and there is no complaint. So Japanese philosophy is like this. When they come into any country, they create these sharks, and these sharks make sure that everyone is running for their money. So the Japanese principles, they have exceeded what Deming actually taught them, and they've actually pioneered, forefronted, and they've actually taken it to the next level. Right? I can go on and on, sir. I think I'll not take much of the time. I think I've already surpassed my time, or
so we are willing to hear you as much as possible.
No, I can,
thank you for being with us.
No, I can go on, but I think you people should not get bored, because if I start speaking, I really don't remember the time. That's where my biggest issue starts from. So there you go. So I think so Japan as a country is something which I really love, and I spent close to 3 years visiting Japan and seeing Japan. So love that place, and if you actually look at it, the kind of discipline which they have in the country is phenomenal. And look at the social distancing norms. Even today, the pandemic has really had no great effect in Japan, because the way they follow the rules and regulations, right? People don't litter on the road at all, and Tokyo by far is a pretty crowded city, but even then there is no littering on the road. Such clean roads you would find. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. The kind of civic sense they have, amazing. And I think all this started building up in the 50s and 60s. Another point I remembered, as you guys were saying, when Deming was invited, Deming was not invited by the Japanese government. Deming was invited into Japan by the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers. So this is a division which is called as JUSE, J-U-S-E, and still exists. There is the Deming's award, which has been started by the Toyota Corporation, which is now close to 2.5 billion US dollars. And it was awarded to India in 2018. Yeah, I don't know whether you guys are aware of it or not. 2.5 billion US dollars is what these guys shell out. So imagine what they have been able to convert from 1950 to 2000 is a formidable empire. It's a formidable empire. You know, if you actually look at any Japanese today, you know, if you look at any Japanese today, and if you ask him which is the laptop you are using, he would never be using a Dell or a IBM or a Lenovo or a HP. He would not be using Apple. He would only be using Fujitsu and very superlative machines. You know, I've tried it out, but I have really not got head and tail of it. But superlative machines, as they call it. So imagine this is the sense of pride of you know, using you know, local products, the Japanese local products in them, which is imbibed in them. You know what today our Prime Minister is trying to tell us. This is what they learned in the 50s itself. That you know, imagine, you know, these guys. Say for example, you go down to Suzuki, Honda, Toyota in India. All three companies put together, and I think these are the three major companies: Suzuki, Toyota, Honda. These are the three major companies as far as automotives in India is concerned. All three spare parts are taken from Japanese companies. Now, how does it happen? The Japanese companies take spare parts from the Indian companies. And these companies then supply to the parent companies. So there is no direct chain which is worked out. You know, can you imagine today, logistic companies, so earlier there were no logistic companies, great logistics companies in Japan, and today, you know, Japan Post in itself is a huge organization, so as to say. So can you imagine today, every automotive company in India deals with a Japanese logistics company. So much so that even rail transportation, the rail transportation, which is run by the government of India, even today, the government of India controls it, and certain part is privatized. Even those rail operations is being run by Japanese counterparts. So imagine this is the way they have actually entered into the country, and they are doing business all across the world. You know, you go down to Africa's, they control it. You go down to America's, the Japanese control it. You go down to Russia, Japanese control it, right? And all because they have stuck to one slogan. And you know, I don't know how many of you have used a Toyota car. For myself, I'm a big Toyota fan today. And if you ask me, I would stick on to Toyota. I would stick on to Honda, and I would not move to a Ford or a Volkswagen, very clearly. Simply because the kind of quality they give, right? So I think I will end it here. I think it was great, intuitive learning, and thank you so very much. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. It was a great learning for all of us. Now I request the director, sir. Sir, please conclude the webinar and for vote of thanks.
Thanks. See, this webinar has been extremely successful with too many takeaways. There are many things, though it may not be related with this webinar, but the insight which has been provided by our esteemed alumni, Ibad Sahab, is really commendable. I feel that there are three things which gives us lesson of life. One is the resilience, ability to bounce back. Japan once was devastated after Second World War. Nagasaki and Hiroshima, we all remember. And in due course of time, and it has become very powerful and economically strengthened itself. And I remember a few days back, a video was released by our chairman, Dr. D.K. Modi sir. In that also, he said that there is nothing to worry about. We'll fight with this pandemic and bounce back as a successful group together. So resilience is a lesson of life, and we all should have patience and always strive for bouncing back rather than giving up. Then the trust aspect again. See, Deming was a U.S. citizen, and he was not so recognized in U.S. But Japanese recognized. However, it was the U.S. which was the root cause of the devastation of Japan. But still, Japanese don't, as Ibad Sahab has just said, that he was not invited by the government. But still, the people of Japan has trusted him, and then that means that we must trust others. At times, you don't know who could be bring a lot of laurel and benefits to you. Third thing is talent. If talent of Deming was not recognized in US, obviously he did not give up. He knew that if I had worth in myself, someday it will be recognized, not in US, then somewhere else. And it was Japan which has supported. So I feel that this webinar has a lot of learning for all of us, and the points discussed regarding 14 principles of Deming and the case of Toyota gave a lot of clarity to those 14 principles. And the very important things that were delivered by our eminent expert panelist, the insight he has given about the sampling importance, bad thing and good thing, the ABT, activity-based timings, and leadership of Japan regarding TQM is really worth praising, and it has got a lot of insight to this webinar. We have been really benefited by the knowledge and wisdom which has been shared by our esteemed alumni, Ibad Sahab. I extend my sincere thanks to him for being with us as an expert. And see, it is not only he has spared his valuable time with us, but during this pious month of Ramzan, with all his fasting, when we made him, when we requested him for being our expert, he, without any hesitation or reluctance, accepted our request. We are really grateful to you, sir, and your alma mater will always recognize you and bless you for the contribution you have made today. We are
would just like to add on.
Yes.
I would just like to add on.
Okay.
Whatever I am is because of CMD. So there's no thanking CMD, sir. I'm always thankful to CMD.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. We are grateful to our president of Dr. K.N. Modi Foundation for being with us because his presence is a sort of his attention is really encouraging. Because we all know that he's a very busy person, but still he spared his time and was with us during this webinar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We are thankful to all dignitaries, our student faculty members who spared their valuable time and what benefited out of the value that this webinar has brought about. With this, I thank everybody and declare closing of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.